Hey guys, how is everyone doing out there? I hope your season is going well. Mine is pretty miserable, but that's okay. Let's just get right into it. Welcome to a patch 269 slash season 21 guide for Crusaders, of course. I love Crusaders. This time focused on the Invoker set. So, we're about a month into seasons, and I hope you guys have been saving your gear because this allows you to play this badass build. And maybe you're like me, and you've been playing the Aegis of Valor set, but it's getting quite old, right? Shotgun is fun, but man, I've played it to death, and it's time for a change every once in a while. And so, if you're like me, or maybe you've played Invoker in the past, and you just got hit with the nostalgia bug, right? Or you're starting this season late. I did that last season. I started 3 weeks late, but I was able to get a lot done. And so it's not too late to get into the Invoker set, especially since it's accessible to latecomers because of the Adrix gift. Anyways, a little bit about this build. Uh, the basic build has been around since season 16, and I am not the greatest of players, but I was able to manage a rank 1 about a month or so into the season. Not in my wildest dreams would I have imagined it, but this was the build that helped me to learn the ropes on how to seriously push for G-Rifts. And so the Invoker build has a special place in my heart, and so I hope that this build guide will be of some relevance and interest to some of you guys out there. Alright, so with the introduction out of the way, let's just get right into it, starting with the gear. So of course you'll want the Invoker set 5 pieces, with the starting with the helmet, shoulder, glove, bracer, and either the pant or boot. It's up to you. So the basics of the set is it goes like this: the 2-piece set gives you damage, the 4-piece set gives you toughness, and the 6-piece set bonus gives you more damage. Pretty simple. You'll also want 2 pieces of the Captain Crimson set. The 2-piece bonus gives you cooldown reduction and resource cost reduction, of course, and the 3-piece bonus gives you damage and damage reduction based on the CDR and RCR. And of course, 2 pieces of the Endless Walk set, Traveler's Pledge Amulet, and the Compass Rose Ring. So more damage and more toughness. Moving on from these sets, you'll want the Aquila Cuirass. This will give you damage reduction based on how much wrath you have, and since this is not going to really fluctuate, this is always going to be up. So quite nice. For the other ring slot, you'll want the Justice Lantern. It gives you block chance, which is really nice and rare on rings, and most importantly, it gives you damage reduction based on your block chance. So pretty important to have, especially when you don't have much Paragon or you're not optimized. For the shield slot, this is very important. You'll need the Akarat's Awakening. This shield is what makes this build work effectively. And what it does is that it gives you cooldown reduction on every single skill that you have each time you're hit. Well, it's based not every time, but you have a chance to lower your cooldowns. But anyways, imagine having perma Akarat's Champion, perma Iron Skin, Laws of Valor, Unstoppable Force, and Provoke. It's just pretty nice and makes life a lot easier. And of course, for the weapon slot, you'll want the Pig Sticker. If you're not too familiar with this, this gives you an extra primary, and the secondaries gives you extra damage. So having a dagger class weapon on a Crusader is kind of wimpy in my opinion, but who cares about that, right? It's all about the stats, and so that is the basic gear that you want to equip. For the legendary gems, you don't have very many options here. So you'll want the Boyarski's chip. This gives you Thorns damage. Bane of the Trapped gives you even more damage. It's practically always on. And of course, Bane of the Stricken, which is even more damage. For the cube, you'll want the furnace because this build is, you're an elite hunter basically. You're going from elite to elite, you're killing them, and so you'll want the furnace in the weapon slot. For the jewelry slot, you'll want the Ring of Royal Grandeur. This will allow you to equip your sets simultaneously. And in the armor slot, you have some options here. I like to run the Nemesis Bracers because this gives me more progression by spawning elites. So one problem with uh, G-Rifts for this build is that sometimes you'll reach the end of the rift and you'll run out of elites to kill before getting to the Rift Guardian. And so the Nemesis Bracer will help you mitigate that problem. And so I usually run the Nemesis Bracers. Alternatively, you can go for even more damage and equip the Heart of Iron. So this will give you Thorns damage based on your vitality. And so if you like to pump vitality, this will be of import to you. In addition, if you want even more toughness, you can go for the Belt of the Trove. And so this will proc your Invoker 4-piece bonus. And lastly, the Leorc's Crown, honorable mention. This will allow you to reach almost 75% cooldown reduction. So I have currently 67.8%, 67.87%. And while equipping just this one item will not get me there, because I'm missing cooldown reduction on some item slots, it will help you get there, right? So if you want insane cooldown reduction, this is going to get you there. But just know that you're going to get diminishing returns on cooldown reduction. Alright, so I just basically covered the standard setup. I will go into the other variants quite a bit later, but for skills, let's take a look at skills. You'll want Punish, Celerity. This is going to be your damage dealer. So this skill gives you block chance, which is important because it will proc your legendary shield power, and it gives you attack speed, which will help you do a lot of damage, right? So just looks like that. And a note on the breakpoints. Let me load up the breakpoint chart. So I am currently at let's see here, 4.29 attacks per second. That's a pretty good place to be. But if you want to reach the next breakpoint at let's see, 5 attacks per second, I think. Yeah, 5 attacks per second. You're gonna have to give up a lot. So I'll kind of get into that later, but you'll just want enough so that the trade-off isn't too big in terms of like toughness, for instance. And so you'd have to give up a lot to get the 5 attacks per second. Anyways, that's not too important right now. I'll get into that a little bit later. You'll also want Provoke Hit Me. This will generate Wrath, which is not important, but it will increase your block chance. And so the whole point of this build is get hit. And if you cast Provoke, well, enemies will hit you. So good to have. Another skill that you need is Laws of Valor Unstoppable Force. This will give you attack speed and resource cost reduction when you activate it. And so this captain set gives you RCR, or damage reduction based on RCR. So currently I'm at 28%. Activating the skill, Laws of Valor, will give me 64% damage reduction. That is freaking huge, right? And so this is one of the reasons why this build is even tankier than it used to be. And so you can spec a little glass here if you want as a result. Alright, Laws of Valor. Yeah, so it looks like that. Iron Skin Flash. This is going to give you a boost in toughness. It gives you 50% DR, but more importantly, it'll allow you to move through environments, right? And so you won't get stuck on mobs, or let's say when you're walled in, you can just move out of the way. As an added benefit, you'll get more movement speed, but that's not all that important because you have Steed Charge Endurance. This is your main mobility skill, and you'll be doing a lot of, you'll horse it up a lot. And since you're moving from mob to mob to elite to mob to elite, you're gonna need horse. You're gonna need this. Okay. And of course, Akarat's Champion Prophet. This will give you damage reduction, and a free cheat death. So pretty important skills to have. As for the passives, you'll want Fervor, of course. This gives you attack speed and cooldown reduction when you're equipping your pig sticker. Hold Your Ground. This gives you more block chance. Iron Maiden. This gives you damage. And for the last slot, you'll either want Finery, which gives you strength, and as a result you'll get more damage and toughness, or you can go for Fanaticism. This will give you more attack speed, and so if you want to, if this will put you over the top on that breakpoint for punish, you know, you might want this. Either way, it's up to you which one you want to use, but just know that if I get rid of Finery, I'll lose about, I don't know, 4 to 5,000 strength, so quite a bit of loss in damage. So that's it for the skills. Paragon, let's get into Paragon. Paragon is super easy, offensive, defensive, and utility tabs you want to max out. Pretty simple. Core tab is also simple. You just want enough movement speed so that you have 25% from the Paragon and your gear. Vitality, you don't want any unless you're using the Heart of Iron. So I have a million, a million health. I don't need any more vitality. Okay, so I'm just going to pump the rest into strength. Alright, and as for the follower, the F button, you'll notice I don't have a follower, and for good reason. The follower is going to distract enemies, and you don't want that, because the whole goal of this build is to get hit, to proc your Akarat's Awakening, and having a follower is going to make your life hell. And so as good as the follower is, there are benefits, of course. You don't want the follower. I don't recommend it. I've tried it and it sucks. So I mean, you can try it, don't take my word for it, but follower, from my experience, is not something you want to run with. Okay, so before I go into the various variant setups, I didn't go over optimization. Okay, so in terms of the stats that you want, you'll want attack speed and cooldown reduction wherever you can get it. You'll want also some life sustain, so like life per hit, life per second is also nice, and maybe even life per kill, but just focus on life per hit wherever you can get it. Also, of course, you'll want quite a bit of all resist, because although this build is quite tanky, when you're pushing, you're going to need all the all resist that you can get. And so those are some stats that you want to focus on. And of course, block chance you want to maximize. So, you know, just get enough so that you're always at 75% block via gear and skills. And that way you're proccing your shield as much as you can. Okay. Okay, anything else? And of course, resource cost reduction. You'll want some resource cost reduction, as it will help you do higher GRIF tiers. Also, the pickup radius. Pickup radius is really important because it helps you pick up those progress orbs without too much hassle. And so that was the general outline for optimization. You know, for helmet, I usually go for strength, vitality, and it's up to you if you want life per hit on the third primary there. You can also go for all resist. For the secondaries, you want a secondary resist, of course, and Thorns damage. But because the Invoker set comes with Thorns damage as standard, you won't have to worry about Thorns damage too much. So if your gear doesn't roll primal, that's when you want to focus on maximizing your Thorns damage. But when it rolls primal, you don't have to worry about it too much. And so, um, yeah, Thorns damage is something that you want to get on most of your gear. So Justice Lantern, you can't get Thorns damage there, but pretty much everywhere else, uh, yeah, except the pig sticker as well. So you'll notice that I don't have Thorns damage on, let's say, my shield, right? That would help me a lot because um, Thorns damage varies depending on your gear. And so uh, the belt is a good place to get a lot of Thorns damage compared to, let's say, uh, the glove. And so belt and uh, belt, armor, and the shield slot are some pretty good spots where you want Thorns damage. Okay, so you'll notice that you can get up to 9,500. Anyways, moving on from the helmet, for the shoulder, this is not ideal. What I have equipped is not ideal. I don't want life percent. I want cooldown reduction, and maybe even some all resist. And so I have a lot of wasted primaries that I don't need. And so, yeah, I don't have another example that I can show you, but the one I have is not as good as it can be. For the glove, like any of the other pieces, you have a lot of options here. I have strength, all resist, attack speed, and cooldown reduction. So the last two primaries are, of course, what you want to focus on. But instead of all resist, you might just want vitality or even life per hit. Let's see. Yeah, so it's kind of up to you, depending on how much life do you have, how much life per hit you have. So you kind of want to balance between all these you know stats, and so you don't want to be too heavy on one or the other. For bracers, again, uh, you'll want physical damage. Actually, I don't think I mentioned that, but you'll want physical. This is a physical build. You want physical everywhere you can get it, which is the helmet or the amulet and bracer. So, of course, if you're using SOJ, that doesn't really matter, the new SOJ. Anyways, for the bracer, you'll want strength and some kind of defensive uh, affixes. So I mean that's kind of really up to you. I'll leave you to your own devices on that one. Belt, pants, and boots are standard fare. Don't really have to go into that. For the amulet, you've got options as well. So you'll want physical damage, of course. Strength is optional, but I like having strength. I have life per hit on mine, but you can also go for something like all resist, or if you want to maximize your damage by reaching the next breakpoint, you want attack speed. So ignore the critical hit damage my on the fourth primary there. So one thing to note is that you don't want any damage affixes on any of your gear except attack speed and strength, and that's because of the way Thorns works and how the set works. So you don't want critical hit damage, critical hit chance, or anything like that. So um, you'll want to find trashy, trashy gear, basically. All right, for the chest, uh, yeah, I don't really have to go into this too much. Strength and some defensive stats is nice, but just make sure you have a secondary that has thorns. This is important. For the shield, you'll want strength, block chance, cooldown reduction, and then you can either stick with vitality or get something else. Just try to get again thorns as your secondary. It's going to be pretty hard to gear for the Acrobat's Awakening because as you'll notice, well, actually it doesn't show it, but shields, Crusader shields, have a block chance range inherent to the shield, so you can get anywhere from 10 to 20% base block chance on shields. So you'll want to pay attention to how much block chance is on your shield. Okay, very important. And as for the pig sticker, you don't want damage range because that doesn't really do anything for you, right? And so, I mean, you don't even have to use a pig sticker. You can use like a white item, a blue or a yellow, but the point is you don't need damage range, but you may not have a choice, right? Your pig sticker may have damage range, but ideally you don't want it. So you'll want attack speed and cooldown reduction at minimum. Everything else is kind of optional and nice to have. So I have vitality on my pig sticker. I don't really need it. I could probably opt for elite damage or maybe even resource cost reduction for the primary. And so my pig sticker, while primal, is not perfect, okay? And of course the secondaries are standard, right? 30% damage to beasts and humans. That's not going to change. Okay, I don't think I covered the compass rose. Compass rose, like any other ring, you just want attack speed and cooldown reduction. Uh, Thorns damage if you can get it in the secondary slot. Okay, wow, that was that was quite a bit of information for the optimization. Anyways, let's get into the variations in the build. Okay, so I just went over the standard setup using Justice Lantern, right? There is another standard setup that you can use, and that is instead of using Justice Lantern, I have an empty slot here for the ring. You'll use the Belt of the Trove in the cube and the ring of your choice. And so I usually go for damage. So the Stone of Jordan. Of course, again, you want physical. Elite damage is, of course, standard. And so either attack speed or cooldown reduction. And so this is an older SOJ, but I also have a newer SOJ. And so I got lazy here and I didn't really, I didn't want to enchant this thing, so I just used this. But anyways, um, there's also the new SOJ, and so if you're not optimized for physical, you know, you can have, let's say you have holy damage on your amulet, holy damage on your bracer, the SOJ. If it has holy damage, you can go that route due to the new legendary power. Anyways, in terms of the ring slot, you'll want, um, I recommend either the SOJ or the Convention of Elements. So what's nice about the Stone of Jordan is that it's always on, while the Convention of Elements is on cycle. And so depending on what kind of GRIF content you're doing, you may want to switch it up a bit. Alternatively, you can just equip the Ring of Royal Grandeur and cube the convention, let's say. Of course, you know, cubing the SOJ is kind of a bad move, but you have that choice as well if you really want to. Other setups, other variations include what I call the immortal setup. And so you can't die using it would be really difficult to die using the setup. So you're using Justice Lantern and the Belt of the Trove for even more ridiculous toughness. Even if you're playing hardcore, I don't even recommend this because of how just over the top tanky you are. So I just recommend sticking to the other standard, some of the other standard builds, right? And so, let's say, for instance, you find yourself dying because your build is really unoptimized or you're really low Paragon and you're running GRIF content that you shouldn't be, then maybe this will work for you. But it's hard to recommend this for me. Okay, and of course, the Glacier setup, I call the mortal setup because you can die. Because you're neither using the Justice Lantern or the Belt of the Trove, and so you're gonna rely on you're losing out on two sources of tremendous damage reduction. But by doing so, you're able to optimize your damage and efficiency in G rifts. And so again, the ring slot is up to you, whichever you want to use. You don't even have to use what I recommend. You know, maybe, you know, Unity even, I don't know. So, you know, just something to keep in mind. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is potions. While not super important, you'll want a defensive potion. And so the all resist potion or the armor potion are some of them that I recommend. So you don't really need the Kool-Aid potion because your iron skin will be your Kool-Aid, right? And so it'll be kind of redundant. So that was the various different setups. For playstyle, it's kind of simple. The GRIF demonstration will be more explanatory, but I'll just kind of simply go over how you want to play this build. So once you enter a G-Rift, you want to pop Acrobat's Champion, and if there's no enemies near you, you want to pop Horse and get to a mob as quickly as possible. Attack them, get them to surround you. So you want to pop your Provoke and any of the toughness skills if you need it. And you want to get hit, so you want to constantly proc your shield's legendary power. And so while you're doing this, you're just moving from mob to mob to mob, mob to mob to mob, okay? And make sure your Acrobat's Champion is always up, ideally, okay? Sometimes if the rift density is crappy, it's going to be hard to do. You're going to be you have to be quite creative to get perma AC in those kinds of crappy rifts. And so yeah, in those kinds of situations you might not have Acrobat's Champion at 100% uptime, but just always keep an eye on this because you know, it's quite easy to die without this. And so yeah, you're going from mob to mob to mob to elite pack to elite pack, and so just make sure you're getting hit and you're using your cooldown skills. And so you don't have to use them whenever they're available. So sometimes you want to be strategic about it. So if your Acrobat's Champion is down, you'll want to cycle between your other defensive cooldown skills. Okay, and so you know, you might want to kind of cycle it up, and then once your AC is up, okay, great, now you're unkillable again. Anyways, so that is the basic pattern for going throughout the G-Rift. So let me show you that G-Rift demo, and I'll give you some commentary on and some tips on how to clear the rift. So let me load that up for you. So where the heck is my video? Alright. Okay, I think this is it. Okay, so I'm going for the mortal setup. This is a very glassy setup. And one thing to note is I forgot to equip the right rune for Laws of Valor, so I'm more I'm squishier than I need to be. So anyways, pop AC, go to the elite pack, just attack them, get your cooldowns down, and move on to a mob. Or there's elite, attack. It's okay if you get wormhole, just horse back to the elite, attack them. Right, and so you're cycling through your cooldown skills while you're fighting. And so sometimes targeting the elite is kind of hard, and so you might want to back off a little bit. There is the elite. And so just hold your attack button once you lock on. Okay, no elites there. So when you're moving from mob to mob, you might want to spend a little bit of time to activate your Acrobat's Awakening legendary power. So one thing to note is that ideally you'll want to, when you're pushing, you don't want to fight 5 elite elite packs, right? And so just try to stick to yellows and 3-pack blues. Also, when you're fighting illusionist, you'll most likely want to skip them when you're pushing. Alright, so there's another source of progression here, via Nemesis Bracers. You don't have to worry too much about which pylons you get. You don't have to, I mean, you want to strategize when you're pushing, but you know, there aren't too many negative benefits or negative consequences to getting a pylon, right? So again, you're moving from elite to elite. You don't want to kill trash. And when you're fighting juggernauts, it's okay. Juggernauts are completely fine to fight. There's another 3-pack of blues. If you find that they're shielded, just kind of you know, alternate between an elite so that you're not targeting a shielded one. And again, always keep an eye on your cooldowns. So, you know, it's kind of hard when it gets a bit busy, but, you know, take your eyes off from the action at times and make sure you have perma AC. Okay, so I kind of backed off because I think my cooldown reduction was an issue with that. So don't, you know, don't hesitate to back off when you need to. Channeling is a very good pylon to get. It'll allow you to, when there's low density, you know, have perma, your high uptime on your skills. So just spam horse. And again, this is not the most efficient build for you don't really do speed Juris with this build. So you either push or you just kind of play to have fun. And so I like hunting for elites. You know, it's gives me a goal, right? And so it's quite different from some of the other Crusader builds. Okay, in situations like these, it's hard to target the elites, so just back off and go back into the fray. Yep, I'm having trouble targeting the elite again. Alright, there it goes. Gotta love burrowers. Alright, this is a good floor. You'll want these kinds of floors when you're pushing, along with the forest map. And again, you'll want to target yellows. They are ideal for this build. So if you get a rift with mostly yellows, man, you hit the jackpot. Okay, again, I'm having trouble targeting the elite. Alright. Just back off and get back right into it. So again, Illusionist, you may want to skip. they can be a pain. So for Season 21, the only way you're going to get any meaningful damage from your seasonal theme is to get Conduit, and that's going to kill trash for you and buff your seasonal theme damage. Okay, so Orlash is... So the first attack, it's not going to proc your Akarat's Awakening much, but the second attack definitely. Anyways, in regards to RGs, you shouldn't have too much problems, but you might find that your cooldowns aren't available, right? Your cooldown reduction skills aren't available because you're fighting a boss that's passive. In those kinds of situations, you want to back off when your cooldowns are in a bad spot, alright? Anyways, like I said, yeah, so this build is not really optimal for speed G-Rifts, and so I hope that someone pushes with this build out there. It is very strong and very capable. I imagine for the season someone can do a 135 and maybe even a 140 on non-seasons. Okay, so I've been rambling on all this time, and that's pretty much it for this guide. I hope this guide was of relevance to you, was informative, and I hope you give this build a shot sometime this season, or maybe non-seasons. Anyways, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.